Hi, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Bonano TV. My name is John Kasonso, and I am going to present this show today. It's about trending news and events in Zambia. And on this program today, I'm going to have to unpack and examine the OCiDA statement on the state of the nation by the chairperson, Telesphore Mpundu. And the statement covers a number of topics. The first is the lack of consultancy and the rise of dictatorship. And then it talks about the lack of compassion and respect for the people and poor. And then it talks about the chaos in the agricultural sector and its grave consequences on national food security. And then it talks about the need for institutional judicial reform, operationalization of the office of the public protector, and making the Electoral Commission of Zambia truly independent. And then it also talks about the chaos in the mining sector and the devastating effects on the economy, and concludes with the rising corruption and poor governance. So I am going to have to unpack and examine the elements. I'll of course give them our take on those topics. Yeah, but I want you to share this broadcast. If you haven't yet followed us, click follow when you see this and subscribe to this network, and then you're going to be able to get some very useful information and great and critical analysis of business issues, national issues, and also we are bringing a clutch of shows on entertainment and trying to promote entertainment in every town and in every city across the Republic of Zambia. Yeah, so for today, I want us to delve into these great topics and review this statement. And we will be as fair as we can, but we are also going to be as firm as we can and trying to make sense out of what the senior citizens are trying to put across to the nation. So whilst we're waiting for more people and also to make it more robust discussion, I want to treat you to an old Kalindula song by Oliya Band called Chenda Mundeke. Chenda Mundeke. It's a really beautiful piece. When we grew up there in Bonano, Mshili, we used to listen to some of these pieces. So I just want to take you back to the old good days. Hi, so welcome back. That was Chendamundeke. I remember those days. The guys just got on their first flight to go and perform in Botswana, and when they came back, they called themselves Chendamundeke. Yeah, so I like that piece. It's got a nice beat to it. So. This past week, we were treated to a statement that was written by the chairperson of OCiDA. This is an organization for senior citizens in the Republic of Zambia. And clearly, they don't seem to be happy campers or senior citizens. And they are not enjoying the way the country is being run, and they commented on several issues. And so I went into this. I went into the statement and read it, and I wanted to just offer it a review. And this review is not exhaustive, yeah, but it's a little bit of what I think is going on here. So this. First of all, I want to talk about the authorship or the issue of this statement. The statement speaks about a number of things: the lack of consultation by the government not having compassion, and the chaos in the agricultural sector. The no focus on judicial reforms, only taking selective actions, and then the chaos in the mining sector and the rising of corruption. Yeah. So, but a secondary statement has emerged that says, no, that statement attributed to Father Telesphore Mpundu, the former Archbishop of the Catholic Church, is not the one who wrote that later or issued that statement. But one of the greatest privileges of my life in graduate school is to go to seminary. And one of the best skills I believe I picked up from there was called textual criticism. In textual criticism, we obtain a skill where we can look at the syntax and the way a document is written and compare it with other documents and be able to appropriately tell who wrote that, because each one of us as an author or as an issuer of statements is wired differently. And there are certain aspects of our expressions which are common in most of our writings. So the observer, reader, or examiner, or investigator can be able to tell that this statement was issued by certain people. The new article actually tries to say that the person who issued that statement was Shua or my friend Emmanuel Mwamba, so some person like that, and tries to remove the Father Telesphore Mpundu, the former Archbishop, as the person who authored that statement. Yeah. So, but Father Telesphore Mpundu, the former Archbishop, is one of my greatest heroes in this life, because I have read a lot of statements that were written by him or issued by him in the so-called pastoral letters. The pastoral letters, when he was the Archbishop of the Catholic Church in Zambia, they used to issue what they called pastoral letters. And those pastoral letters, they would provide information what they think is important, and literally they would issue what you would consider an indictment on the governance and the state of the country and things like that. So in my view, I would see that if you look at those pastoral letters that were issued during Chiluba's time, they used to issue those letters periodically. They would not come out that frequent. And in fact, in most cases, they would not come out this quickly. When the government is just a year and 4 months in, they issue such a letter. No, they would observe for a period of time, and they would make concerted efforts towards those suppositions and push their ideas to influence the governance, because they, as a church, believed that they represented the people, and they do to a large degree. There's a big Catholic population in the Republic of Zambia, and most of their ministry and their services cutters across the nation into some of the remotest part of the country. They are responsible for even digging talent out of areas that could not even be put on the map anywhere in the world. So the work of the Catholic Church is a very good work, and it's a reasonable work, and it's a part of the story of our country, and the Catholic missionaries. Yeah. So looking at the character of this letter, I think that I could be wrong, but I think that it is not unfathomable that this letter emanated from Emeritus Archbishop Telesphore Mpundu. So I will take that view that this is from the Archbishop Telesphore Mpundu and not from anywhere else, or the sources that are being associated right now. So, so what is the main issues that they have? They think that the nation has is is being governed using dishonest and self-praise and rhetoric and lies. And they decry that. So they speak in a forceful manner like an opposition political party. And most of their talking points, I will share in the conclusion why I think this statement might as well be said to be a PF document because it uses a lot of their talking points. Yeah. So anyway, the first thing they talk about is that it's time to govern with compassion and respect for people, not rhetoric. Now, rhetoric is speaking in a manner that is persuasive. That's all what that rhetoric is about. So, and then this letter itself is written in a manner that is also persuasive, or this statement is issued in a manner that is also persuasive. So, but the problem with this is that they are using rhetoric to speak against rhetoric. So the question is, can you be credible if you are speaking against rhetoric and what you're using is rhetoric? So that's something that we can think about on the issues. The first real significant issue they say in this statement is that one of the qualities of good leadership is a preference for consultation coupled with their capacity to build consensus. Unfortunately, consultation appears not to exist. So it is the considered view of the citizens organization that the government of the Republic of Zambia is not consulting stakeholders or does not show an affinity for consultation. And there appears to be disconnects in several areas. It is true that in a multitude of councillors, there is safety. Yeah, but it does seem to me that this group of people are not happy because they are not being asked, they're not being consulted, they are not being included. So the simplest thing to do is the way former presidents, like we can talk about Frederick Chiluba. Frederick Chiluba used to have the when he saw these types of letters, he started attacking the Catholic Church because that's what housed Father Mpundu as the Archbishop of the church. So he started attacking them. He would stand on the rally and touch his head and he'd say Catholic Tabakwete. And he just took that as a fight, but he paid heavily for that. When the time came for him to try and run for a third term, they were one of the biggest voices against that. So anyway, he took the approach to take them on and fight them. And he lost, unfortunately. Another typical response that came from the president of the country was the presidency of Mr. Edgar Lungu, ECL. ECL totally ignored them. He never responded at all to the issues. And again, he paid the heavy price. They were part of the giant organization that organized this ousting. So how I would advise the current administration to take Father Telesphore Mpundu's letter, the former Archbishop, is not to respond to this the way Chiluba responded. It is also not to respond to this the way Edgar Lungu responded. The thing to do is look at some substantive things that they are saying. And to the extent that some things are valuable, deal with those things. The question I would ask the administration is there a consultative approach in major policy implementations, or just even going to ask the elderly to find out from them what they're thinking about what is happening in the country? Is there a feedback loop? In other words, is there a feedback loop? If it's not there, put it there. You know, some people have so much experience and so knowledge, and they are citizens and it's their country, for heaven's sake. So go and ask them, invite them to the State House and ask them what they think about different issues. There is nothing wrong with doing that. Of course, you're not going to take everything they say wholesale, but at least you must give them an opportunity to say something and not just ignore them. We know that the Father Teresa from Mpundu, the former Archbishop of the Catholic Church, was very close to this president. In some ways, we saw even conduct mass at the State House. So what happened? Perhaps there is a breakdown in that relationship, and that's why this letter is coming out this early. The Catholics usually used to wait until there has been progress. They have engaged the government on different topics. That's when they issue the statement. But this particular statement to me appeared to be in a hurry. Yeah. So then let's continue. What else they are saying here? They said that they have observed a trend of centralization of power to the State House. I thought that this one shouldn't be a problem because of the way the nation's governance is structured. Zambia is a presidential republic. It is not. Co-equal branches of government doing different things. Even when people are sworn to public service, they have to swear one to the Constitution and another to the president. For example, that never happens here in the United States. There is no swearing upon the president of the United States. No. Sorry, but in Zambia, you have to swear upon the president. So it is a presidential republic, and this observation of centralization of power, it does not comport with what we should be talking about. Unless we as a country constitutionally transform and change the nation. It's a presidential republic. It is the president and his party and his country and these people and these appointments. That is the way Zambia is structured from independence to this very day. Unless we are trying to say that we should change, we should dramatically change the things. So on the centralization of power, it is probably a big ask. That's just the way the nation is organized. They talk about the president micromanaging ministries. Presidents have got styles. If he's micromanaging, that's his style. That's his style. And then because the buck stops with him, and then he will learn faster how to learn. What we also have to understand is that this president is doing job on training. He has never served in public office, and he has never served in a political office. So this is his first. So he's learning on the job. If he's micromanaging, he will have a high blood pressure soon, and he will stress, and then he will learn to delegate better. So we can't complain about that. If he has a personal style that is detrimental to his destiny or his future, it's something we can talk about, but it's not something that we can say it's a national crisis. No, it's not a national crisis. And then they say that there is a lack of compassion and respect for people. They say that we have noted a worrying and tendency by those in authority to heap praise on themselves whenever an opportunity presents itself, and to explain away problems they cannot resolve by blaming the previous administration. Yeah, look, this statement is cynical in itself. Why? Because the people in authority are politicians. Politician is a different job from a father or a pastor. The pastor, when you pray for the sick and they get well, you may never praise yourself as a healer because you prayed to somebody who healed them. That was God. But the political job is about telling the people, we're going to do this. And if you do it, you have to beat the drum and tell the people. Political office is not church office where you are expected not to amplify your good qualities. That's what political office is about, is to tell the people what you've done. And when the government people comes up and tells us what we have done, that is not self-praise. But the other thing is, culturally in the Republic of Zambia, we have a culture where we don't give praise, we don't give credit where it's due. So if a guy comes up and he's beating his own drum, it is not very good, but it comes with the territory, it comes with the job. The politician has to always tell us what they've done. The politicians can promise you 40 things. If they do 3 things, they'll beat the drum and make you feel like they did 100 things. So it comes with the territory and the nature of the job. The senior citizens complaining about that, they're just being cynical. I don't like that. This concept of blaming the previous government, we have where we're coming from. The problems facing the nation today did not jump on Zambia. They were caused by policies, practices, and behaviors from the previous administration. We have to emphasize that this problem came from there. And if we don't identify where the problem came from, we cannot come up with a way to resolve the problem. So this thing of excusing past misdeeds, in fact, this one point sounds like a very glaring PF talking point. Those who are saying that Mwambaka would have written this from the Patriotic Front, I think they can they can use this statement as evidence of that. Why? Because it's in the best interest of the Patriotic Front for people in the nation to think that they did nothing wrong. It is in the best interest of the Patriotic Front for people to forget quickly how terrible the country was under their government. So, because that is what gives them a platform to stand again. So that point is not a realistic construct. Yeah. It's not a realistic construct. Now, the other thing that the senior citizens want is they want a roadmap on institutional reforms. A roadmap for institutional reforms. And seriously speaking, 4 months or a year and 4 months in government, they are probably creating one. Yeah. But these type of reforms are not immediate needs, because when they entered there, it's an economy in a crisis. Certain things can be a luxury. The immediate need in the country is actually to fix economy. That's the immediate need in the country, and not start piling up expenses on the government operations and trying to reform a defunct system, but a broke system. It's a broke country. So you cannot be in a hurry to do these things. So the decrying of reforms in the sections in the Constitution, nearly every government has appointed an electoral commission. What has come out? Going by the output, there is not even hope that even if we appointed another electoral commission now, the results will be different. Kaunda had the Vunga Commission. Muchirubadzik, I don't know how many commissions in Wanakatwe. Other presidents have also had commissions. What have come out? It's still a funky constitutional structure. So constitutionalism is a process that comes and is jilted by the needs of the nation. So, of course, there should be a place for doing this, but it is my considered view that need not to be a priority. Need not to be a priority right now. Let's fix the economy. Let's get people, the 7 million unemployed people, let's get those people to work. That is what is urgent. On the same issue, the senior citizens said, instead of producing a clear roadmap that shows and appoints a committee of experts on comprehensively look at the constitutional reform exercise, what we have seen is a slow, selected, and targeted review of legal reforms. Usually that's what happens if you don't have resources. What is standing in our way for us to do what we need to do? If what is standing in our way is a small piece of law, change it. You don't need a constitutional review to remove defamation of the president from the laws. They've done it without a constitutional review. The constitutional review is comprehensive. So there are those pertinent things that are standing in the way. They are trying to reform the Public Order Act. Pick on that issue alone, fix it. That is Cost-effective constitutionalism. The whole idea that we have to gather a committee of people, pay them allowances, take them to every city. We have done that before, and we still come up with a broken and defunct constitution. Fix the pieces that are affecting work today. I heard one time a wise man say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and hoping for a different outcome. We have always had a constitutional review. What has come out? So now we have to go back again and do a constitutional review. That's boring. That's boring. That's boring. And then they also said, we urge the government to identify and address the root causes of the factors that were responsible for the chaotic distribution of farming inputs that we saw. Obviously, the government has identified those, and that is why they jumped in to do that. So that's a no-brainer. I don't have time to even comment on that. They decry, they say there's a creeping culture of intolerance to criticism. And basically what they're saying is that people who are supporting the government are not tolerating the views of those who are opposing. They are speaking against them. So that, welcome to democracy. That's what happens. When you criticize, you are going to have some people respond. And when some people respond, that is not intolerance. Intolerance is when they come beat you up, they send you gun, they're going to tear gas you and throw some of your people in jail. The Patriotic Front style. That is intolerance. Intolerance is not removing the law on defaming the president. Intolerance is not, literally, every opposition leader in this country could talk. So this thing of the people you criticize also have a right to defend their views, their position, and that's okay. It's part of the democracy. Yeah. And then they say here, the senior citizens say, we also implore government leaders to embrace critical feedback in actions and not rhetoric. I think that government should embrace critical feedback, both in actions and also in rhetoric, because rhetoric is just a way speaking persuasively to convince people. You cannot govern people without having the ability to convince. That is just the way it is. The current corruption, and they say, this may be through questionable consent orders or insider dealing, where the firms with connections to those in power are hired to represent clients who sue the government, so that the parties concerned can later share the spoils when the courts award costs. This one, I think it's misplaced, because there is no single case under this administration where they've been awarded costs. They've gone to court to be awarded costs for anything. This is maybe like Ichimbala, the leftovers from the Patriotic Front being included and being imposed on this government. We don't have any high-profile case in the Republic of Zambia where somebody sued the government to recover a lot of money, and then they went and shared that money with the people in power. And that is the point they're using on rising corruption. I think it's a figment of the imagination. When we accused the Patriotic Front of corruption, we had glaring evidences. They buy a 250 fire truck, 42 of them, and then they book it for $1 million a piece. We asked the question, the difference between the 250 and the million, where did it go? We've never had answers to this very date from the PF. When we say there's corruption taking place, we must come back with the numbers, not just creating the noise that there is corruption. We are then covering up the corrupt practices of the previous regime. And then we are making the atmosphere where we insulate the current administration from actually dealing with corrupt practices in their structures. So if there is a deal where there's a lot of money involved and people benefited from that unnecessarily, point out that issue and present that issue so that we can look at that. So I think it was just the thing of lacking words or things to say. Where there is evidence of corruption, we must have a case and a quantifiable a situation that we can point to. But so far, this actually statement that is speaking in this way is rhetoric in itself, and it is not helpful to those who are governing, because you're accusing them of corruption. You can't point out a specific case and where money has been lost by the government and money has been misapplied or misallocated. Yeah. So yes. Then they talk about the cost of living rising considerably in the past 1 year and 4 months, with no discernible plan in sight on how to reduce it. The cost of living always rises. And what causes the cost of living in Zambia to rise? And why has the cost of living risen considerably in the Republic of Zambia? What are the issues in the global economy that impact Zambia that are not helping to survive, helping people to survive? Those are the things we need to ask. You cannot say the government has come in and raised the cost of living from the beginning. Yes, they are responsible for whatever happens during their reign. They are responsible for whatever happens during their reign. And then if they are responsible for what happens during their reign, we have to have the courage to point out what they have done that has caused the cost of living to go up. But if it's circumstances beyond their control, we need to give the government ideas on how to resolve certain issues. Yeah. For example, we know that the Ukraine war has gravely impacted the cost of fuel in the country, and everything rises or falls on fuel, the productive sector, the movements of the people. And if fuel prices are high, they are high, and they are going to affect the cost of living. So do we have anything to do with the war there? We don't. We don't have anything. So what can the government do? Okay, Presidio goes to have a meeting with his colleague in Angola. What do you think they were talking about? Creating roads from Western Province and Northwestern Province into the Angola means that we are connecting the filling stations in Angola to the filling stations in Zambia. That cannot happen tomorrow. And government is a bureaucracy. There are a lot of intricacies to work around. So we have to look at the pointers. What are the things they're doing that will help us in the future? Can we expect that there will be a different future based on the things we were doing? If the answer is yes, let's support that. Not trying to use rhetoric to even reduce the performance of what they are doing. So I have a feedback here from Danny Kunda. It says, on the point of blaming the PF, the nation knows the damage resulted from the PF time. UPND will be more respected if they put focus on rebuilding the country and no need of bringing up the PF. I disagree with the last statement. The PF is always going to be brought up because they cheat on the country. They brought this problem on the country, so it's going to be there. Yeah. So it's always going to be there. Should they focus on rebuilding? Of course they should focus on rebuilding. And that's exactly what they're doing. But this notion that we should shield the PF and not mention them, it is not just a constructive way to even think. The PF will be mentioned, should be mentioned, and need to be mentioned so that even this government, for what they're doing, they know that even in the future, when we have removed them, we've put in a different government, we are going to mention the things that they did, which didn't help the country. You know, we can't be, Mr. Kunda, we can't be a culture of hypocrites whereby we hide from the truth. No, the truth is what the PF did is not constructive. You can't borrow billions of dollars and bury them in structures and invest nothing in the capacity of the people to be able to help themselves. We cannot do that. So the PF is going to be mentioned, should be mentioned, need to be mentioned, and we must continue to scold them because they damage the country. That's my take on that one, brother man. Sorry. Yeah. So, and then they speak about what has been going on in Zambia. The senior citizens say the regional imbalances in public appointments and foreign service. I think that other than the government of Kaunda, this is the one government that has done their best to bring in every region into the government structure. The Patriotic Front had more than 95% of their appointments coming just from 3 provinces, somewhere where the sun rises. And the senior citizen says, no, that administration was a failure. Don't use it as a standard, gold standard. No, we have to compare where we're coming from for us to estimate where we're going. And that aspect of trying to hide the Patriotic Front is not a helpful way to proceed. It's not a helpful way to proceed. Yeah, so now, anyway. Yeah, it's not a helpful way to proceed. The senior citizen said that we have noted a worrying pattern that shows a regional inclination in public appointments to the leadership positions of government bodies such as the 5 security wings, the judiciary, the Electoral Commission, the National Assembly, the Foreign Service, and even the boards of parastatals. I think that to the degree that we must see things, there seems to be some truth, but also an inconvenient truth in that statement. First of all, we know that by the time the Patriotic Front took center stage of the government, they split the country in half. They split the country into the Northern Eastern Bloc and into the Northwestern, Southern, and Western Bloc. They split the country like that. So political parties, if a political party like the UPND was from this Western side, most of their members and most of their leaders were from that region. And the Patriotic Front as well, most of their members, including the people they appointed in all of these leadership, foreign service parastatals, they came from that quadrant. So it was that region governing the other region. And for the most part, it's been like that for more than 50 years in Zambia. It's that part governing this part. Now, for the first time since independence, we have this part of the country, the governed now, controlling the dead. But how are they doing it? They're not doing it like what the other quadrant did. How they're doing it is they are integrating regions. And you don't expect them to leave their people off, the people from their villages off of the roster of government jobs. Because for the most part, they were even excluded. In fact, if it's for the last 10 years, some were even fired from the government because of their language and the villages where they're coming from. So to the degree that some steps and some strides have been made to integrate the country in these appointments, I think we shouldn't just pile up on them. We should take the leaf and encourage integration of the regions. And that's the full essence of the One Zambia, the nation, the One Zambia. And the beautiful part of me is that I belong to both regions. My mother is from this other region and my father is from this other part. So you have to split the money into to get what you want if you're trying to divide the country. So really, the appointments of people who were left out for 50 years, their villages, it is an okay balance. Let's have a different worldview. Let's have a different system. Let's have a different culture lead these institutions. Let's see what happens. Let other people also, it's an opportunity for other villages to also contribute. There's nothing wrong with that. We have noted a worrying tendency where the Foreign Service has long been used by successive governments as a dumping ground for unemployed ruling party supporters. Patronage is not the best way of utilizing public resources. We urge the government to initiate legal reforms. I can't read the rest of that, but if you are elected in government and you need teams of people to support what you're doing, are you going to throw all the people out that supported your political party or your organization, and you are going to pick on those who you were fighting against to support you? You won't achieve anything. So this is a no-brainer, and we can't even validate that concept. Those people you're calling unemployed, unemployed ruling party supporters, they didn't have a job. What is wrong with them getting a job? Even if it's in foreign missions, what is wrong? Insansa kuchinjanya. Aba nabo bale teka. Bali yakona mu foreign missions. Fish fyalwa napo, aba isa po bale teka na vena. Babule po aba nabo na vena, abo bale luisha nabo. Baba pereko too much to buy a bomba from foreign service. Fish fyalwa napo. I think the senior citizens here are out of their mind on this one. That is just life, how it happens. People who support the government should be able to be included in governing, so that even when they mess up, they will be blamed together. That's what happens. Even in these United States, Ngapaisa Democrat president, kuma key positions, kuya Democrat, tabam kubula ma Republicans that have a contrary no. Ama Republicans yanfenga bayingira puna venancha, ama Democrats vaishi but kabo wakufuma baya. Ever yabomba politics, but ever win my elections, ever taker. One of my friends used to say, so the senior citizens complaining about unemployed ruling party supporters going to foreign missions and things like that. That is the name of the game. Citizens, unemployed. What is wrong with giving people a job? The visible shadow of state capture, I think, in that entire letter, the most powerful point is this one about state capture, where the government becomes beholden to a few interests. And those interests are the ones that are determining the government policies. That they discourage that, and the government to be awake to that reality. So that is the review. I will offer the conclusion now on the review of that later. Of course, there is information we have received that Bishop Emeritus Telesphore Mpundu did not author that, and if he did not author that, it's understandable. But there are critical correlations between his writings in the past and this one, so it shouldn't be so strange for us to assume that he probably authored this one too, or it has inclinations of the senior citizens. Yeah. So now we've come to the critical part of the show, where I'm going to offer a concluding remark on this review of this statement. Yeah, on this statement. Yeah. So the concluding statement on this is, for me, there was a lot of rhetoric and the opposition PF talking points in this statement. There was also tremendous Bemba nationalism against the appointment of those formerly excluded from government. There was pontification and some middle of the ground good advice from this statement. I also found some very expensive proposals that cannot be justified financially for the government of a debt-stricken, poor-performing nation, e.g. the prioritization of the commissions to review the constitution at the expense of other priorities to drive the economy. Some proposals were just not great proposals in this statement. I also found the tone of it a bit disingenuous on democratic space. A return to civility in political discourse that has taken place since this new government came in. The statement is inconspicuously quiet on certain critical things that are beloved of the Catholic Church, like free education, moving the economy out of the negative to the positive growth. It also downplays the role of foreign direct investments. If you are trying to develop businesses, you're trying to start enterprise as a way to resolve problems in the country, what do? You are going to get the inventor, the entrepreneur, and the capitalist. So foreign direct investment directed at building capital and capacity in the country is just the way to go. It's just the way things should happen. But this statement is quiet on those critical topics. They want a blueprint for how the country is going to be improved or developed, or the unemployment is going to be resolved. But then they keep quiet about foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is capital. Capital have to create some businesses. Some businesses are like abantu amachito. Emwana kwate ma products ya kushita fyalo fimbi so they chile kwato. Yeah. So that and I also found this statement alarmist in forecasting hunger and several topics. Just because there were delays in delivering fertilizers, it doesn't mean we'll automatically transform into an hungry country this year. Mu January, muno infla ichidilelo, kabantu wafire bali mana, muno mu January, mu April, mencha matabana yakula. That's what we grow for the most part. And if the people who grow the most maize that we use to feed the nation, have they got fertilizer? If those people have fertilizer, then we can't be so serious about forecasting hunger. You know, we can't be a prophet of doom to that degree. Clearly, OCiDA can benefit from quantitative research and financial modeling because they're not looking at financial modeling and how financial modeling comes up into creating policies that can help the country. Yeah, so I would advise the president and his handlers to read this statement, but with caution not to overreact or feel dragged to move away from their focus and style. It's stated, this statement is stated in generalizations and it is lacking in specifics. There's a lot of rhetoric in this statement, and the best point is the warning against state capture. I think the government does well to listen to the warnings about state capture, because in Zambia ubuntu ngotwalipoka ngawa muno umuntu wesa no pio lwingi uikokola museve nomba kubuteko ngatakuli kuseva bali bashitakale. Where is the country going to go? So that is my thinking about this letter, and thank you for watching this show. Give me some feedback. I know most people don't like reading, but I read that statement, and I have done my best to pick out the pointers and things that we can comment on, and I've offered a conclusion. So thank you so much. Have a good evening in Zambia, and have a good afternoon in the United States, and all over the world where you are seeing this show. I appreciate you. Go ahead and share this broadcast, and go ahead and subscribe, and also go ahead and follow us and help support Bonano TV. This is John Skasonso, and a goodbye, and may God bless the Republic of Zambia.